Welcome back into a new analysis video. Brian, things are very fluid right now. We're sitting here recording this early afternoon on Wednesday. Right now, Colorado doesn't have an opponent. We just heard that Wyoming's game against Utah State was canceled. So naturally, people are getting their hopes up that maybe a matchup with the Cowboys could be a reality.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, regionally, that'd be pretty easy to do. And it wasn't canceled because of Wyoming. It was canceled because of Utah State. And 2 games in a row that Wyoming said canceled because of their opponent. I think they just want to play. And they're supposed to play Thursday night at home. The Buffs obviously supposed to play at home against ASU. I would think that the game would be in Boulder, but who knows? We're speculating at this point. But I think that's certainly a matchup that makes a lot of sense. Of course, the obstacle is here on Wednesday morning, we learned that the ADs in the Pac-12 want to approve non-conference play, and now it goes to the president. So if the presidents don't approve that, then it doesn't matter. If they do, then there's a possibility that maybe the Buffs play a game this weekend.
Yeah, let's not spend too much time on this because, again, who knows if this is outdated information very quickly. But quickly on that topic, the president's concern would be that maybe other conferences don't have the same testing as the Pac-12, right? I would imagine that would be the only hurdle there. Maybe you could try to implement some type of protocol with the team if you're going to schedule a non-conference team to maybe ease the concerns of the presidents. Is there any other reason the presidents wouldn't approve this?
Yeah, Adam, I think that's probably the only reason that the presidents wouldn't allow it is because of the testing, and that's kind of why they went to conference-only games anyway. So I think if they can figure something out, and Wyoming or whoever can agree to, yeah, we'll do this type of testing leading up to the game, I think that they could play, but we'll see. The presidents have to sign off on that.
Just with the interviews this week, Brian, we first got a chance to talk with Darren Cheverini. I thought it was a little bit interesting, his comment about the fact that the quarterbacks don't have as many checks at the line of scrimmage. He thought that was a big reason why they had so many, pre-snap penalties last year. And so he kind of talked about that maybe being a reason why Sam Neuer has fit pretty seamlessly into this offense this year.
Yeah, his comments I thought were really interesting. Talking about he never said Jay Johnson's name, but really kind of saying that the Jay Johnson offense was difficult for the quarterbacks and made life tougher on everybody. And he talked about his offense is a lot easier for everybody, and especially the quarterback. And maybe that's why they're having more success. But I don't know whether that's true or not. But you look at, last year was CU's worst point production in about 6 years. And you look at what Michigan State's done so far this season, and they're certainly not prolific on offense. So, I can't speak to that, but Karl Dorrell obviously, or Darren Cheverini obviously feels like they've made things easier on Sam Neuer, and that he's really thriving under that.
He said that CU should be a destination place for quarterbacks in high school. Darren Cheverini, a really good recruiter, and even with the media here, kind of throwing out a sales pitch towards quarterback recruits.
Yeah, I think that CU might need a quarterback drafted at some point before you can start saying it's a destination place. I understand why he has to say that, but I think the destination places for quarterbacks are those schools that produce draft picks and high draft picks, and CU hasn't done that in 23 years. So I think that CU maybe can get there if they have offense like this over a number of years, but right now they've got to prove it more than just 2 games against a couple of suspect defenses.
Brady Russell is going to miss significant time. Karl Dorrell mentioned today. Obviously, as we mentioned on our post-Stanford analysis video, that there's quite a bit of a drop-off there. But, again, you can kind of work around the tight end position. You're going to want those guys in there. Clearly, they're a big part of this offense, especially in terms of blocking in certain packages. But you're just probably not going to focus much on the tight end in the passing game, right? You've obviously got a lot of depth at receiver. So you'd like to have Brady Russell out there. He's definitely a guy that can create some mismatches, but you can maybe kind of retool your philosophy on offense a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think Matt Lynch can be a good receiver for them, and he's got a couple passes already, not quite as effective as Brady, but Lynch is a possibility there. I thought C.J. Szymanski actually That's tough to say, Adam. CJ Szymanski actually blocked pretty well the other day against Stanford. So I think he did a pretty good job. So I think they got guys that can block. Nico Magri came in there and did some blocking as well. So I do think they can use him in the run game. But you look at Chev's offense 2 years ago, and they didn't use the tight end hardly at all. So I think he'll be able to adjust pretty well. And like you said, they've got all those receivers that they need to get the ball to. I could see them maybe leaning on them a little bit more.
Speaking of guys that can block, we had a chance to talk to Chance Lytle, who got his first start last Saturday at Stanford. 6'7". He says he's up around 345, 350. That is a mountain of a human being right there.
Yeah, that is a huge guy, and he looked huge on the field, but I thought he played well. I mean, looking at the game, he made some mistakes, but you expect that for a guy making his first career start. I thought for a guy making that first start, he played really well, and he's a guy that for the last couple of years, I've had coaches tell me, he's kind of a dark horse there that could play. He finally gets his opportunity, and he looked pretty good.
We also had a chance to talk to Brendan Rice, and really good writer that did a story on him. But I'll be honest, Brian, I kind of cringe when he's asked about his father, because we've known that Jerry Rice was not that involved in him growing up, and it was really his mother that raised him. And so I feel bad for Brendan that he's got to deal with those questions every time he talks to the media, because he's a good player in his own right, as we've heard the coaches talk about. And hopefully at some point that storyline kind of goes away. I know he said Jerry Rice got involved in his life when he was in high school, but really that's not the story with Brendan Rice. It's his mother who raised him, like I said.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, sitting in the hotel the other night after the game and watching college football final loop through a couple times. They led it with Brendan Rice's catch, and the fact that it was Jerry Rice's kid, getting his first career touchdown. So he's only a true freshman. He's played 2 games. I imagine that narrative is going to be used a lot throughout his career. And you're right. I think it's unfortunate. I mean, I get it, but it's tough when the father isn't really around a whole lot to give Jerry Rice a lot of credit. And hopefully there's more focus on Brendan's mother, because it does sound like she's done a great job of raising him. And frankly, Brendan's shown he's a pretty good receiver in his own right, and that's kind of the point of the story that you alluded to. But he's a pretty good receiver. He looks pretty good in the first couple games.
Yeah, Isaiah Lewis hopped on with us as well this week. Maybe the most improved player, Brian. I mean, had we had a Zoom call in the spring, and somebody said that Isaiah Lewis was going to be maybe their best defensive player through 2 games, Sam Neuer is going to be the best Power 5 quarterback, and Jarek Broussard is going to leave the Pac-12 in rushing by a wide margin. I mean, all 3 of those guys we didn't expect a whole lot from this year.
I think we would have laughed at one of those things, but for all 3 of them to happen, it's amazing. But hey, credit to Isaiah Lewis. He's one that I've bumped into over the years at basketball games, things like that. Really nice kid, and he's one that I always hoped would get a shot. I've never really interviewed him because there was no reason to, because he wasn't playing. Today was our first chance, really. I think it's the first interview we've done with him. But I'm happy to see it. I mean, he's a different player. I mean, this is a kid that the lack of depth at safety is why Sam Neuer went there last year, and he was playing over Isaiah Lewis at certain times. So it's cool to see, because Isaiah, I think, has been their best defensive back. I don't even think it's close, Adam. I think I'm not sure he's been their best defensive player. Nate's up there, Carson Wells is up there, Terrence Lang has been a beast, but I think as far as defensive back goes, I think it's Isaiah Lewis, and I'm not sure it's close.
We didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to get in there and watch this team practice in previous years, but the few times we did, it seemed like Isaiah Lewis was always kind of in the area, but just couldn't close on the ball. And I think, I guess now that I think back to those times that we did get to see him from time to time, it's not that shocking, but yeah, it's still pretty impressive. Darren Rakestraw is the guy that everybody expected to do really well. He's kind of been up and down overall this season. Any other thoughts from just our overall interviews this week?
Well, I will say just one more comment on Isaiah Lewis and Sam Neuer is, when Sam Neuer was named the starter and there was so much bashing by fans, like, this program, I'm done with this program, things like that. I think both these guys are proving that with college kids, just give them some time. It takes some time to develop, and there's such this rush to see guys be stars early in their careers. It can take time, and I think Sam and Isaiah are proving that. Jarek Broussard in a different way, although he's been injured, but it's cool to see guys late in their career step up and start playing well. So I like to see that. But other than that, I'm not sure I have any other comments. We've hit everybody. Mustafa, I guess we talked to.
Yeah. What were your thoughts there? Obviously, that front has played pretty well. That's been the least of their issues, defensively, especially in that Stanford game.
Yeah, I was asking Mustafa some questions for a story I'm doing on the testing, but Mustafa obviously has been a leader on that defense, and they've played really well. I mean, stopping the run, they've done a really good job. And other than DTR had that big run in the first game, and Davis Mills had a couple scrambles the other day, but the running backs have done nothing against CU, and they've really done a great job. And we saw Janaz Jordan get in there and make a nice play the other day. Mustafa, Terrence Lang. I think it was against Austin Jones. I'm not sure if he's woken up yet from that hit that Terrence Lang put on him in the backfield. But those guys have played well.
Back to your point too about Isaiah Lewis and how some of these guys take longer to develop. I think sometimes we fall into the trap as media folks is assuming that progress is going to be linear as well. In Isaiah Lewis's case, I guess it kind of is, but Daniel Arias, we just assumed was going to be a really good player this year. It's not always that. It doesn't always work out that way, right? And preseason magazines are always going to assume, okay, you're bringing back this number of starters, they're going to get this much better. It doesn't always work in the way that we want it to. Some guys do progress in a linear fashion, other guys don't. It's kind of more of a crapshoot than sometimes we want to admit that it is.
Yeah, you're right. And different guys develop in different ways, and some don't develop that you think are going to be really good. And it is a crapshoot. And I'm one that I write the preview for CU for one of those magazines the last few years, and it's the same thing. As much as I feel like I have a handle on this team, sometimes I'm wrong. And you put guys in that starting lineup. We have to turn those previews in like in April, and you do your best guess. There's times I look back, I'm like, this guy's not even on the team anymore, or this guy didn't even crack the 3 deep. So it's interesting to see what happens as guys develop and get an opportunity.
One last note, Colorado did lose a commit, Josh Bryan, a kicker to Notre Dame. Not surprising. I remember my first interview with Josh Bryan. He said that Notre Dame's my dream school. It didn't look like they were going to offer him an opportunity to go there, so he picks CU. Obviously, no hard feelings towards him picking his dream school. But now it creates an interesting situation. Does CU try to get another scholarship kicker on board, or do they roll with Evan Price, who his kickoffs were a little bit short there at Stanford, but has been pretty consistent with his field goals through his underclassmen seasons?
Yeah, it's, for me, not being an evaluator, I would look at it from the outside and say, roll with Evan Price. I mean, he's been nearly perfect, and the 2 field goals he's missed in his career were both blocked, so not necessarily his fault. He's 11 for 13 in his career. And you've got Tyler Francis there too, who we saw a couple years ago, and he came in and made his field goal. So they've got guys, and Evan Price can play for another 3 years. So personally, I would keep Evan Price and maybe put him on scholarship and look at something different for this next class. Maybe look at kicker a couple years down the road.
All right. Well, very fluid situation right now. Hopefully there's a game that we're covering this weekend, Brian. We'll be back, if there's an announcement made and have a preview there. But if not, I guess it's like everything in 2020, right? We're just kind of going day by day, hour by hour at this point.
Yeah, we might need to do a second video here this afternoon. We'll see.
All right.